So if you want to specifically give like coffee or creamer or sugar or things like that, you're welcome to do that. If you want to donate specifically towards coins, you can do that in the offering time if you want. So there's just lots of ways for you to give back. Thank you so much. We'll actually take up our offering tonight as we do the Serenity Prayer. So the last thing I want to tell you guys about is Elevate. Elevate Conference is really kind of a foundational thing that the Lord gave us that we're building Elevate Recovery on. Because Elevate, it was really the transformational thing that happened in us, but also what God took us through over the last 30 years in understanding what's going on in our culture, what's going on in addiction, what's going on in trauma and abuse. And God has given everything that we need to become whole again. And that's his heart for you, is for you to become whole again like he is whole, and to be functioning in oneness with him, in a wholeness, so that we can be, we're not moving into always grasping and looking and hurting and things like that. We want to move to a place where we can serve others, where we can give without any regard to what it costs us, basically. So that's just an invitation to that. That is on the 26th. It's a Saturday. There is a $49 charge if you register early. If you register at the door, it'll be $69. But in faith, even if you don't have the money, we want to encourage you to sign up in the back. There's a slip back there that talks about it. There's a sign-up sheet that you can sign your name up and really just do it. We've already had a little bit of scholarship money coming in, so we really encourage you, if you have not been to Elevate One, this would be the time to do that. So that's on the 26th of September. It starts at about 8 a.m. in the morning, and we're typically done by 3 p.m. in the afternoon. We'll feed you good. You'll walk away with so many tools, feeling empowered, changed. You'll walk away with burdens lifted off of you. You'll walk away a different person than you came in. Any person that's ever attended can testify to that. So it's one of the most powerful things I've ever been a part of. So anyways, awesome. So with that, I'm actually going to hand it off to my beautiful bride, Holly, and let her introduce Sarah and pray over her.
Yeah. So Sarah, come on up here. Yeah, come on. So first, I just want to thank Sarah, because she was actually planning on getting, like we said earlier, to share her testimony last night. And CR got canceled last night due to the smoke and such. And I messaged her last night, apparently too late because she was already asleep. And the Holy Spirit was just like nagging, like she needs to just share it. Anyway, so we just changed all the plans and got a hold of her I sent a message last night and said, hey, you still want to share it? She got a hold of me this morning and said, is it still available? Yes. So thank you. So I just want you just to stretch your hands out to Sarah, and we're just going to cover her. Lord, we thank you for Sarah. We thank you for Sarah's yes. We thank you that even though she's feeling maybe nerves of, I'm going to say excitement, but she thinks it's anxiety, that this gets to be an enemy stomping time, because she overcomes the enemy by the blood of the Lamb and the word of her testimony. So I just declare that as she releases her testimony, there is more freedom and more healing that comes to her in Jesus' name. And I want all of you just to turn your hands up to receive. Because at the same time, what she has to release over us, we receive. And we say that it comes and it transforms and it hits our hearts to where we need to surrender and say yes more to you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Hi, everybody. Okay, so I'm going to do my best. Hi. Huh? I don't eat ice cream. Okay. All right, so I write this like I talk, which means I'm probably going to babble. So just bear with me, please. Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah, and I'm a great. Hi, everyone. Hi. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. I'm a beautiful daughter of God who is loved to the fullest. I'm an overcomer of pills, any and all, meth, heroin, alcohol, and codependency. Well, I might be still working on that last one. I stated my drug use because for a long time I lied to myself and others on how bad I had gotten, and it's time to be free and honest. So that's what I'm planning on being tonight, honest. Right now I'm working on self-love. I'm gonna let you know right now my memory is hazy due to a lot of abuse and drugs. My timeline might be a little off, and I'm gonna do my best to fill you in on my life before, during, and after my struggles. I was born in 1981 to Lisa and Gary Wenzel. They did the best they could. My mother lost a baby at 6 months pregnant and had my sister, then 2 years later had me. My sister passed away not long after I turned 2 months old. So for a long time, my mom was so afraid she was gonna lose me that she did not get close to me until I was much older. Now to go back 2 years, sorry. My mom went to the doctor because she was ill and had no clue what was going on. They performed a bunch of tests and nothing. So for some reason, she asked them to do a pregnancy test. Now this was weird because she was not supposed to get pregnant. The doctor came in and told my mother she was correct, but followed it up with asking her when she wanted to schedule an appointment for an abortion. The doctor informed my mom that the tests they ran would make the baby mentally and physically deformed. I thank God every day that my mom doesn't believe in abortions because that was me. Growing up, I felt like I was a choice made for my parents. My sister was a daddy's girl, I wasn't. My sister had blonde hair, beautiful green eyes, and she minded and behaved, not me. Go figure, right? I was different and acted up a lot. Over the years, I'd grow up never feeling like a part of anything. I would go to youth group and make friends, but I always felt like I had to force it. And when I made genuine friends, they would end up moving or leaving me behind. I always felt alone and did not know what to do about it, so I started looking for my self-worth in boys. And man, even as a teenager, I could pick some real winners. Cheaters and boys who wanted to marry me before I was 18, more codependent than me. I always knew there was something off with me, but never would truly find out until way later. I would soon turn to weed and alcohol, but I was not an addict. I mean, I was 17 and only smoked weed at my friend's house. And weed is not a drug, right? I was a good kid, went to church every Sunday, youth group every Wednesday, even went to Mexico on a youth retreat to work at an orphanage. I was a virgin until almost 18 years old. So over the course of a few months, like more men, I met a couple guys at a local pool hall and ended up dating one for a while until he got too clingy and we broke up. I was hanging out with his best friend, who I considered a good friend of mine as well, when my friend and I decided we wanted to see how much whiskey we could drink in a very short amount of time, mind you. So later that night, when I was blacked out drunk, my ex's best friend took me to the back room and took my virginity. At that point, I did not see the point of, well, anything. So for the next 2 years are a blur of alcohol, abuse, and lots of men. I hated myself and my life. Then I met Jason. We got together and was together about 3 months when I found out I was pregnant with my son. We were gonna get married, but that didn't work out, and I became a single mom to the most amazing boy, Matthew, Kyle, Riley, Luke. He was such a happy baby. We would find out later he had Asperger's, and when he was 5 years old, he came down with scarlet fever, which ended up damaging his front temporal lobe. He is such a good person with a big heart, but got bullied all through school. That killed me, knowing my precious little boy was leaving the house every day to be bullied by kids who did not know any better. That would end up fueling my addiction even more. I spent the next 5 years drinking a lot, but not enough to be an alcoholic, mind you. I never drank it when my son was awake. Somewhere in that time, I would meet a guy who used cocaine. So to get him interested in me, I would then start doing cocaine as well. But again, I was not an addict. I only used when my son was either at my mom and dad's or his father's house. My drinking got worse, and so did my addiction to men. Then I met Nolan. He was not like anyone I'd ever met before. He was handsome and funny and drank and did cocaine too. It was a match made in hell from the start, but I was so blind to the red flags, I couldn't see what I was about to get myself into. We were together just under a month when we were at a friend's house for dinner and drinks. We got there and decided to go out for dinner and drinks. That led us to the bar. Little did I know he could not hold his alcohol, but I would soon find out. That night started out so amazing, but ended up horrible. He ended up slamming my head against a brick wall and tried choking me. They split us up, and I walked home. He ended up following me home, where he threw me around and ended up headbutting me so hard he broke my nose and split his head open. I got away and ran to the neighbor's house, where they called 911. He was later found hiding in my closet, and I went to the ER. He got 6 months, and I found out I was pregnant a week later. Not wanting to be a single mom of 2 kids from 2 different dads, I took him back. I gave birth to a beautiful baby girl named Shilena Athena Hope. I would spend the next 5 years living in my own personal hell. I would pray and pray every night for God to give me the strength to leave him. I would, but I always ended up back with him. Then 3 years into my situation, CPS found out about the abuse and his horrible past. They made me and my children live with my mom and my dad, and I was not allowed to be alone with my kids. Sorry. That, of course, did not stop me from being with this man. CPS had finally told me I could be alone with my children on one condition. I was not to have them around Nolan. Didn't stop me. One day, Shy and I went to go see him, and he wanted to go for a drive. He was not someone you say no to, so off we went. He ended up wrecking my car, and the cops got called. The next day, CPS showed up with the police and informed me it was time for me to move out, and I was not allowed to be around my babies. Now, you would think that would stop me from seeing him, but for some reason it didn't. No matter where I went, he would follow me. It didn't matter to him the position he would put me in. I lost places to live and people in my life. All he thought about was himself and what was good for him. The first time I ever did meth was because he forced it on me. It didn't stick that time, though. My breaking point happened one night a few days before Christmas. At this point, I was visiting my kids regularly at my parents' house. Sorry if I'm going fast, you guys. I'm trying not to. He misunderstood what I was saying to his dealer and lost it on me. He slammed my face on the dashboard so hard that it broke my glasses, and I had a welt and a bruise on my calf from hitting the bar under the seat trying to get away from him. I ran into the house that we were living at, and he left. He showed up and beat me black and blue, threw me around our room, and drop-kicked me in the back. I tried leaving, and that set him off even worse. He looked me in the eyes and said, "If I can't have you, no one will," and tried to slit my throat. His roommate called 911, and the paramedics said I was lucky that Nolan was so drunk, because he started the cut too far back, and that's what saved my life. He was unable to hold the knife straight and didn't make it across my throat. I went to see my children on Christmas beat up with stitches. That is what finally made me leave him for good. I got an apartment and finally got my kids back. Life was good for a while until I ended up needing back surgery. I had major back surgery, and the problem with this was they gave me a whole lot of pain pills, and I loved that. I kept taking them because I was in pain and needed them. I lied and got my doctor to put me on a pain contract where I would receive a bunch more. Mind you, I was not an addict because they were prescribed to me. It did not matter I couldn't hold down a job. My excuse was always that I just wanted to be home with my children. I would continue using Vicodin for years, and it got to the point where I would run out and have to buy some. I would lie and steal and sell my belongings to buy these little pills that had so much control over my life, and I was really good at it. All the while getting mad at people who accused me of being a pill addict. They were from the doctor, and who ever heard of being addicted to pills, really? I believed I couldn't do anything without them. I couldn't clean my apartment. I couldn't play with my children. My life was controlled by this. And then I remembered one day, someone close to me, sorry, I'm going to get personal, asked me if I've ever snorted them, and that was a game changer. That's the only way I would take them from that point on. Because it didn't say take my mouth on my bottle, I truly believed I was doing nothing wrong. Plus, it curbed my desire to do cocaine. And in my mind, it was still legal. I was doing nothing wrong. When my daughter was 5, I found out I was pregnant with my 3rd child. Let me see, I'm going to see that. Where am I at? The kids and I moved to a bigger place when I was a few months pregnant. Life was good again, but I could not and would not stop doing pain pills. Even pregnant, it wouldn't stop me. I gave birth to another beautiful baby girl, Mia Bella Peyton Sky Wenzel. That was the last of me having babies, and I'm really okay with that. Yeah. Life was real good at my new apartment downtown. We made friends with the neighbor lady and her kids. We quickly became a huge family. I was auntie to her kids, and she to mine. We lived this way for years. Now, her and her husband loved drinking, and so I started right back up again. Drinking games and men were becoming a comeback in my life. I met a couple of nice men, but I was so messed up in the head that the nicer he was, the faster I ran. I would continue my life of pills and drinking until I met a woman whose daughter was dating someone close to me, and she introduced me to Adderall. So, for quite a long time, that's what my drugs of choice were: drinking, alcohol, Adderall, and Vicodin. It got pretty bad. I would stay up all night for days playing cards with her and not being a mother to my children. My apartment got bad, and my kids were living in filth, and I just didn't want to see it. I missed my own daughter's birthday because I had been up so many days that I needed sleep and sent my friend in my place. Now, I did have certain rules in my apartment. You were not allowed to bring meth into my place because I didn't want that around my kids. In fact, if you were loaded, you were not even allowed over. I was still in complete denial about my problem. I mean, what I was doing was prescribed. Maybe not to me, but that was okay. Then one night, a close friend of mine asked me for a ride for him and his buddy. That was the night that I met Joe, and my whole world would change. There was just something about him that drew me to him. I had to be with him. I found out later he did and dealt meth and weed, but that didn't stop me. I started finding people to buy drugs from him and to show him my loyalty, and we started spending time together. I even went as far as picking up a sack that was shorted and gave it to him. We ended up together, and he moved right in. I did not start using meth, but I smoked weed just to impress him. My one strong rule that meth was not allowed in my house nor people loaded went right out the window. I was allowing him to do drugs and sell them out of my home. My intention was no longer on being a mom or my kids, but this man in his world, because it was scary and exciting. I held his phone, drugs, and our gun. I was driving him around getting drugs and dropping them off. Taking him from Reedsport to Gold Beach, sometimes for a whole day or two, leaving my poor 15-year-old son in charge of his 8-year-old sister and 3-year-old sister. Yes, even overnight. All the time, I was getting deeper and deeper into my pill addiction. So here I am, 35, with a clean record somehow. I don't know how, but I did. And we got pulled over. They found an empty baggie that ended up having traces of meth. And because it was my car, that was my first UP meth charge. One of many to come. So now we're on the police's radar. One night, while trying to get to Salem to buy pills for me, Joe and his buddy couldn't fix my car, so his buddy went and borrowed a car from his mom's roommate to drive us. So I leave my oldest and youngest son with a man I barely knew and took a car that I didn't bother checking to make sure if it was okay and drove to Salem. We found out on our way home that the car was reported stolen, so when we got home, the police arrested us, took my kids to my parents. The police searched my house and found lots of bad stuff, and that's when CPS stepped in. Looking back, I really truly believe it was a blessing. So because I was living in low-income housing and got arrested on the property, it was only a matter of time before I would get an eviction notice. So to keep from having that on my record, I put in my 30-day notice. As soon as Joe got out of jail, and the reality hit me that my kids were gone and my house was gone and everything was gone, that's when I started doing meth. And I just lost my spot again. And I loved it. It started out being a once-in-a-while thing to all the time. I loved that I didn't feel or care about the pain losing my kids in my house, where my kids grew up in. I loved that I was losing weight. My life seemed so perfect. Joe and I would end up all over the place before settling at his mom's in Gold Beach. I was granted 1-hour visits with my children, but soon stopped seeing them because I couldn't even go through a 1-hour visit without going to the bathroom to do a line. I got sick of my kids seeing me loaded. At that point, I felt they were better off not seeing me at all. I would spend the next year of my life in and out of jail and moving all over the place. We moved into a rundown motorhome that would break down everywhere. My life was nothing but dumpster diving, canning, and lots of drugs. It was okay, though, because at least I had Joe. Then one day, he walked away from me like everyone ended up doing. That was the beginning of my spiral into the darkest part of my life. You see, in my mind, God had already taken my parents and my kids, and Joe was the last part of my family that I had left, and now God had taken him away from me, too. And I was mad. I would go on doing a lot more drugs and blaming God the whole time. I would curse his name, and I had so much hate in my heart that it hurt. I started making even worse choices than before. I would hitchhike everywhere, which was a flip of a coin. I would get picked up by some pretty horrible people. I had been beaten and sexually assaulted numerous times while hitchhiking. I once got picked up by an older man who seemed nice enough. He told me I could take a shower at his place up in the woods. That turned out to be a 3-day event where he would hold me at gunpoint and beat me with whatever he could. I ended up losing what little hope I had, and when he tried to stop me from leaving, he put the gun to my head and pulled the trigger, and nothing seemed to happen. I'm not sure if the gun jammed or that it wasn't loaded, but nothing at all happened. Now, you would think me walking out of his house alive would make me believe in God again, but my hatred had gotten so overwhelming, I cursed his name for not letting me die. The worst part is I was gone for 3 days and no one even knew I was missing. And that was the point where I became extremely suicidal. I tried ending my life at least 6 different times. Now, mind you, all this time Joe was in and out of my life using me for what he could, and I was so blind I couldn't see it. And I would let him because I loved him. He got tired, too, of seeing me wasting my life and how crazy I'd become. So he told me he wanted to cut ties and about ended me. So I finally gave in and went to my first rehab. Now, mind you, I went so I could become sober, win Joe back, and start using again. That was my idea. My mind was nowhere in the right spot to succeed at sobriety. I went to Vancouver, Washington, completed a 28-day inpatient rehab, the entire time never letting go of my initial plan. I got out and went to a clean and sober living, but I refused to go to meetings or find a sponsor. One night, while on the phone with an old dealer, I found out Joe had a new girlfriend, and that was that. Everything that I was sober for was taken from me, and the next day I packed up, relapsed, and ended on the oh-so-familiar road to hell. I was back to being in and out of jail, homeless, eating out of garbage cans. I got to the point where I believed this was my karma. I didn't deserve anything better. My kids were better off without me, and the only worries I had was finding enough cans to get the next sack. I was traveling all over, and one night I was in my old dealer's house waiting for some guy to be ready because I was going with him to the coast to sell his trailer. Somehow we all ended up in his car the next day and on our way back to Roseburg to get more drugs. We stopped by the girl's friend's house. Little did I know that was a trap house, my very first one I'd ever been in. I didn't want to go in, but I also needed to get high. So against my better judgment, I followed her and him inside the house. We went inside and I was asked to wait in the living room. It wasn't until 2 hours later I realized I had been left. Not long after that, I was informed she picked up drugs and I was her payment and there was nothing I could do about it. The man told me if I was a good girl and I did what I was told, then I could leave tomorrow. I remember looking at this girl there hoping she would see the fear and desperation in my eyes. She did. However, the only help she could give me was handing me foil and telling me that if I smoked what was on there that night, then it wouldn't be so bad. That is how I was introduced to heroin. I'm not going to go into the details of that night, but I realized that I was now addicted to something new. And thank God I didn't do heroin that long, because I ended up, by the grace of God, in jail. Not the ideal place to DT off of that, but I never touched it again. Now, skipping forward to when I finally got tired of this wonderful life I loved, I woke up on some weird guy's couch, him telling me I needed to find some place to go. And mind you, I don't know how I ended up on this couch or who he was. Just happened, I guess. I couldn't tell you how it happened. I needed to go find a place to go because he was picking up his girls for a visit. Now, I tried to find my dealer, but I couldn't find him. So due to being tired of being on the streets, I asked him to take me to the Samaritan Inn. Now, my plan was to go there for a few days, then go back to my oh-so-amazingly wonderful life of drugs. I was at the Samaritan for a short bit, and I met this pregnant girl who we all know and love, and I was going to shout out to her, but she's not here, Amethyst. The first day I met her, I claimed her baby to be mine. Man, I wish I had a picture of her face. Next day, I did the same, and she said, okay. But there was something more powerful going on at the Samaritan than I would ever know at the time. Somehow, this wonderful woman always knew when I was going out to try and get loaded, because I would hear behind me every single time I tried to leave, hey, where are you going? I would lie and say to the park or the store, and there she was waddling behind me saying, cool, I'm going to go. Yeah. Not I want to go, but I'm going to go. Now, I was a pretty big dirtbag. I robbed people, I stole, I lied. I was just all around horrible, but not take a pregnant woman to a trap house horrible. Yeah, not that. So for the first week of my sobriety was because of Amethyst. I started feeling, sometimes that was good, sometimes not, but I did. Now, anyone who's ever been coming down knows the hunger for food you have. Little did I know that God was using my hunger for his good. So this was back when we had to go to church. I had no clue about the churches here, and I heard about a church that was doing a Christmas dinner after. So I was like, yep, that's the church for me, Faith Foundry. Shout out to Faith Foundry. Woo! I walked in and service started, and they were loud, and I loved it. I felt so welcome and wanted. It was so weird. For the first time in years, I did not feel like I was an outsider or a freak. I felt like I was a part of something. I knew from that moment on that that was the church for me. The food was good too, you guys, so you know. It's pretty good. So later that week, I heard about Wednesday night CR, and at first I was like, nah, I'm good. Then someone told me that not only do they serve you food, but you get seconds. So, yep, God leading me by my hunger and brought me to CR. That night, they served shepherd's pie, and yes, I got stuck. I got seconds. I remember that. Then we had worship, and I was stuck. Well, through all my getting sober and staying sober, I never left the Samaritan Inn in fear of who I would run into. So I didn't check in with my PO and ended up back in jail. Now, this was going to be my first Christmas in years that I was going to be able to speak with my children on Christmas and my son's birthday. His birthday's 2 days after Christmas, so And now I was in jail and they wouldn't answer my phone calls. So in a moment of self-pity, I got high one more time. That would be the very last time I ever got loaded. It was December 27th, 2018. I remember hitting my knees in jail and crying for what seemed to be forever. The one part of reckless love, there's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me, was playing over and over again in my head. I felt for the first time since I heard that song, I truly knew what those precious words meant. I was so tired of everything, tired of living, tired of wanting to die, just tired of everything that made up my life. And mostly, I was tired of hating God. I came to realize that I was so full of guilt that I could not handle anymore. I hated God because I had no one else to blame. I remember kneeling and praying for the first time in years. I cannot remember everything I said, but the main part went something like this. God, I am so sorry. I'm not going to be one of those people who say, I will follow you and go to church as long as you get me out of jail. But I do want something. I give you my life, and all I ask is that you either take me in my sleep tonight, or maybe, if you're not ready for me to be done on earth, you will wake me up tomorrow and show me a life where even in jail good things happen, please. And then I went to bed, and yes, I woke up the next day. So I prayed and believed he would work miracles, even small ones in jail. In Jeremiah 29:11, it states, For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future, and he truly does. Every day I was there, something good happened. My lawyer came early, saw me earlier than expected. Court happened faster than I thought. My PO took 30 days off my sentence, and so forth. Every day he was there for me, showing me that there's a life worth living. My parents, for the first time, wrote me and sent me a picture of my babies. That was the first time in years I had seen them. Looking at that picture made me realize I was ready to be clean for real this time. So I got out of jail and hit the ground running and haven't stopped. I went back to the Samaritan Inn, and from there went to Crossroads. Shout out to Crossroads. See, I knew I could stop using, but I also knew life on life's terms can be difficult. And I know my only way to cope would send me down a dark path I no longer wanted to go down. I knew I needed tools to deal with all the feelings I had coming. I needed to know how to deal with the guilt of what I had done and what I had put my kids through. I loved every day at Crossroads, and I learned everything and anything they taught me. I got my teeth in Crossroads. These ones? Yeah. But the biggest blessing was the day I got my first visit with my kids. The first time in years, I got to see them and hug them, and it was the greatest day of my life. Deuteronomy 28:2 says, And all those blessings shall come upon you and overtake you if you obey the voice of the Lord your God. I got an amazing sponsor in Crossroads and continued to go to church and CR. I started writing my kids, and my parents finally started talking to me. I left Crossroads a different person. I went back to the Samaritan Inn and really dug into the life of sobriety. One night at Thursday night CR, they said they were doing baptisms, and I signed up. My dad actually drove all the way up from the coast to watch me give my life completely over to Christ. At the baptism, I kept hearing a guy talk, and for some reason in my heart, I knew the voice, but when I looked for the face, I couldn't find it. It was so weird to know a voice and not a face. Then a man walked up to me and started talking. The voice, I finally had a face to the voice, but I didn't recognize him at all. He could tell I didn't know who he was because he said, You don't remember me, do you? Yeah, I was like, Nope. Then he told me that he ran into me at a gas station in Yoncalla, another place I don't remember being, and he prayed for me. That was during my I hate God phase, so it really shocked me that I would allow someone to openly pray for me. See, God planted the seed in my heart through this man without my knowledge, so to speak. This man went to my church, the church God led me to through my stomach. Him and his wife and kids are now a part of my ever-growing family. A year ago this month, I moved into Oxford, and I finally, for the first time in years, had a home. I lived with Crystal for a while. That was pretty amazing, too. I love you, Crystal. I had friends, and I was taught how to not only be a better person every day, but how to be a friend. I'm still learning from the amazing women in my life how to be reliable, responsible, and caring. I'm no longer afraid of life on life's terms because I no longer have to face it alone. I have people to reach out to when I'm struggling and a family to celebrate my victories. I have a relationship with my parents that I've never, ever had before. I'm allowed at and inside their house. Yeah, that's a big deal. And better yet, they trust me, they believe in me, and they are proud of me. I'm trusted with my children and get them all the time. They stay multiple days, and many of you have had the pleasure of not only meeting them, but being a big part of their lives. I do my best to mentor and help women who are struggling. I'm a person of my word, and I'm there for my family. I am so blessed to be a leader at CR, and I get to co-lead a group of beautiful women. I still struggle a lot. I have so much more to learn. I have my moments, but I always try to learn and grow from them. Today, I have 622 days clean and sober. Thank you. With many, many, many more days to come. I'm going to end this with a huge thank you to all of you who have been there since day one. Thank you for loving me when I could not love myself, for believing in me when I was empty, and encouraging me through every step of this beautiful life I have now. Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
So I just want to say something about Sarah. I've like not known her as long as like a lot of you, but like I've known her for like a year to like a year and a half, something like that. But the first time I met her, like, or even saw her, I was like, I don't know if I want to meet this girl. But now to the day, like, we're really good friends, and just like seeing her life and like, I haven't heard her testimony before, so hearing it tonight was like, whoa, like, who is that person? Like, I have no idea. Like, and so looking at that and the person she is today, she is such an example of the person, like, I want to become. She is reliable, she is steadfast in, like, so many ways, and she's been on this growth path that has been, like, expedited. Like, like, from last year when I met her till now, it's like, I don't even know who she is now, like, or who she was then. It's like, whoa. And so not only is God proud of you, but I'm proud of you, and I'm so, like, thankful to be able to watch your journey and, like, learn and grow from it. I love you.
Awesome. Can I get a couple volunteers that would like to pass the buckets? And we're going to go ahead and close with serenity prayer tonight. Super good. Such power in the testimony. Let's say the serenity prayer together. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardships as the pathway to peace, taking as Jesus did this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that he will make all things right if I surrender to his will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life